Hey kids, it's Arp. This is the ArpCast, somewhat live from the foothills of the Great Smoky Mountains in eastern Tennessee. Today we talk about different things, weird people, and maybe unicorns and rainbows. We read poetry and short stories too. Most of all, we keep it real. This is the ArpCast, starting now. Welcome to podcast number 8. It is October 30, 2017. This is Arp Trivedi. Hope everyone's doing well out there. So, the process of doing a podcast, the ArpCast as we call it, is an interesting one for me. And I'm constantly looking for feedback and assurance. I am a creature of assurance. So I reached out to a very good friend of mine, Dwayne Fulmer. Been friends since college, 30 years almost. And I said, Dwayne, tell me what's missing, what can be better. And he said, Arp, it's okay, as a podcast goes. And he's what I love about Dwayne and so many of my close friends, that they're just there. They're honest, is that I need to speak from my soul. It felt too scripted. So I'm going to admit to something, an admission of guilt. I was reading the first 7 podcasts, completely scripted, and you could probably tell. Now, clearly, making a confession like this so early in our relationship is difficult, so I hope you'll honor that. But at the same time, I think it's fair for you to know that as you go through this process, you learn from yourself, more importantly, from those that you hope to serve and entertain and please, friends like Dwayne. So Dwayne, thank you so very much for that feedback. So we had admission of guilt, confession is difficult, prohibition on future scripting, so that everyone knows this is coming to. Now, I do have some program notes I'm looking at, so I know what to talk about, but the words are not written down in advance or anything like that. And then there's always that accommodation for things needing scripts. Short stories, others writing, musings, so forth and so on. However, the unscripted soul, it is forever and always on the ArpCast. Well, until they cart me off and lock me up and put me in a straitjacket in a padded room, we'll keep going. With that said, tonight we wanted to offer a little light reading. So presented on the last Monday of every month will be a little bit of literature, whether it's my own or someone else's. We'll offer up some literature. So today, an excerpt from a forthcoming short story that I'm working on called Evergreen. It's a story of longing, moving about with a historical perspective. So we made a pretty large move from up north down here to the Tennessee Valley a little over 2 years ago. And so I had this idea of putting that concept into a short story. I changed a lot of things about it. I changed the timing of it, as you'll see, or you'll hear, rather. And obviously I changed the entire demeanor of the story, but it was very much a catharsis for me. We didn't have the easiest time in our family making the move. I'm very happy we did. I do very much like it here, enjoy it here. The work is great, and the new friends we've made are wonderful. So one thing, the spark for this, interestingly, was the protagonist's name. And so I had a friend, suppose he's still a friend, but he's moved on to greener pastures. Greg Bogomule worked for a vendor partner of ours, and I love that name Bogomule. I don't know what it is about it, and I love the name Rufus for whatever reason. So I put the two together, and our protagonist is Rufus Bogomule. So here we go. Evergreen, a short story by Arp D. Trivedi, copyright 2017 and then some. And this is just an excerpt. November 12, 1798, Evergreen Estate, Commonwealth of Virginia. My dearest Rufus, it is with the burden of duty that I write. It is with a tearful soul that I inform you of the passing of our beloved mother. Old age has finally ensnared our daddy's butterfly. She asked, before passing on to a plainer meadow than this one, that you receive the land and waters of our serene homestead, Evergreen. She suggested you might not accept her gift, but I explained that Evergreen's draw is not only perennial, but it is vicious and unrelenting. We do miss you, my dear brother. As the new master of Evergreen, we pray you come home to the grounds of your innocence and ideal to command their economy and retain their grandeur. May your travels be swift and without trouble. Please give our love to Agnes and the boys. Evergreen awaits. Your doting sister, Mary Catherine. Rufus Theodore Bogomule drops the letter, and to the floor it floats, a soulful parchment of love lost, land amassed. He has not seen his mother or his homestead in nearly a decade. The pursuit of self-worth manages to keep him away. The dawn of a new nation holds in its glow opportunity and challenge, scourge and savagery, in a single ray. What is it, Rufus? Agnes Bogomule asks from across the veranda. Rufus turns slowly and faces Agnes with a cold countenance. Mother has met our maker. Agnes swallows hard and fights back tears. We always fight tears instead of accepting the salty concoction for what they are. Don't cry, Agnes. Mother loved life every day of her life. Rufus, is she gone? Really gone? Rufus looks at the date on the letter again. It is nearly Christmas time. The hearth glows, the snow glistens against the setting sun. I reckon so, Agnes, Rufus answers, solemn and pensive, mind fixed on an arbitrary point of nothingness and longing. It's been nearly 30 days since Mary Catherine dispatched this letter. Should I tell the boys? Agnes asks, emotionless and still. Yes, they will not know the difference, but that is entirely my fault. Agnes calls out to their sons, Will and Daniel. They arrive a few minutes later, their eyes, full of life and anticipation, grow larger when they see the large cakes baking just inside on the hearth. Agnes waves them into the house and into the parlor. Rufus overhears her heavy whisper and the gentle weeping that follows. As Agnes returns, boys in hand, they look at their patriarch with questioning faces. How is he handling the news? Where are his thoughts? Why has he waited so long to return to Evergreen? The silence wears like a crown. Its singular note of indifference sparkles, radiates across the veranda. I'm fine, boys. These things happen. This is a story your children will rehearse and tell about your mother and I. One day, hopefully, it will be a source of joy. That's how I look at your grandmother's life, as a source of joy. The boys run to their father. He clenches them in his meaty arms, holding them near and tight for more than a few minutes. The remainder of the day passes without incident. The boys play in the yard and out on the winding road leading up to the manor house. This is a house Rufus built by hand. the porch, the plank floors, and the massive hearth. It is clear that somewhere deep inside he misses Evergreen. This house, far and away from his birthplace, stands as an homage to the grand manor house in which he was reared. As he paces on the veranda, the sun dips below the tree line and the wind presses against the land, cold and nameless. Agnes watches her husband of 15 years from inside, sitting in the parlor while knitting the boys a new set of sweaters. She weeps every now and again, hoping, praying they will return to Evergreen. She had spent her first 2 years of married life with her in-laws and the estate's larger-than-life staff. She loves it there. Her love is not a result of an easy life or because of the adoration of the staff, though both are abundant. There remains something about that place. "Agnes," Rufus calls her in his booming voice. She nearly loses her needles. Agnes puts down her knitting materials, grabs her wool shawl that is warming by the hearth, and bounds towards the veranda. Before going out, she checks her hair and wardrobe in the grand foyer. After all, she exudes Southern femininity. She hails from a well-to-do family and is the wife of a well-respected landowner. Agnes Bogomil regales at all times. As Agnes swings the door open and steps onto the massive veranda, she nearly faints at the sight of her husband. Rufus Bogomil, kneeling down on the porch he'd built with his own hands, weeps silently. Agnes approaches him with furtive admiration. She could still hear the boys in the distance, whooping and hollering. "Rufus, dear, what is the matter?" Her husband turns his head as slow as a sundial marks the day. He peers into her dewy brown eyes, wipes his cold, wet cheeks, and, as calmly as a box turtle speaks, "Let's go home." So, not all unscripted, but certainly hope you thought it was soulful and that you enjoyed it. So look for, in November, look for the short story in its entirety. We'll do that as a separate ArpCast. We won't mix it in. How some of you get with length of the program and whatnot. But it sure was fun reading that. Certainly hope you have a wonderful Monday and Tuesday. And oh yeah, by the way, we're going to try to do 3 of these a week. And so some don't think we can, but we're going to try and put this out there for you to enjoy, provide us with feedback, and just make it fun, make it interesting, and really gain something from it, both of us, all of us. So with that, there's number 8. Thank you for listening, and we'll be back soon. Well, kids, you know who this is. It's ARP, damn it. You have been listening to the ArpCast, a sensational, fact-filled experience meant to change the world. I'm happy you stopped by. Our sponsors, those greedy, wily bastards, thank you too. Make sure to write. This has been the ArpCast. I'm out.